Good morning. Thank you for the coffee.
Pleasure.
So, we just began the new month of Elul, which is a very big shift. And it begins a countdown to the high holidays. And so suddenly we're starting to think a little differently. We're starting to be more mindful. We're blowing the shofar every morning. We're getting into a different headspace. And so it's a good idea to kind of drill down a little deeper into the powerful elements of this month. The Hebrew name for the month is Elul. Now there's an acronym of the 4 Hebrew letters of Elul that spell out a Jewish passage, a passage from Torah. Ani lid Aleph Lamed Vav Lamed spells Ani lidodi vidodili from the Song of Songs. Very beautiful passage. I am to my beloved as my beloved is to me. So the basic ground floor interpretation of this is a general movement of the human being towards a more godly consciousness during this time, and the reciprocal response of God drawing closer to us. And the Kabbalah breaks it down into different phases. The I am to my beloved is really one phase, and that is covered in the entire month of Elul, the pre-game, so to speak, the pre-high holiday warm-up, if you may. And then on Rosh Hashana, we get the big Vidodili, and my beloved is to me, where God is, there's a sense, there's an electricity in the air. You come to Shul, and there's an atmospheric energy that is palpable, that is unmistakable. And it's a lot of things coming together, but it's the closest that we come to feeling God's presence, as opposed to searching for God, reaching for God. So that's the general breakdown. But the Rebbe explores this a little deeper and points out that though the main thrust of the month of Elul is our proactive, intense reaching for God, the Ani L'Dodi modality, the fact is you can't break apart the sentence, because the entire month requires the entire 4 words. I am to my beloved. Otherwise, the name of the month is just El. It's Elul. So by default, the second clause of that verse in the Song of Songs still defines this month, even though its experience, the one of God hitting us back, is experienced primarily next month. And so the Rebbe explores this, and one of the ways of seeing it is that there is a supporting energy in this month that is all about our search, that is low profile, it's in the background, but there is a divine, the Kabbalah sees a divine energy, a dodili kind of energy that operates on the back end, so to speak, of the primary focus, which is our effort.
Almost like a cusp.
Exactly. And the Rebbe begins to explore what that means. And that's why we raised those questions about, and again, broadening this conversation. I'd like to broaden this conversation to go beyond the scope of a religious relationship with God to the way the Hasidic mind thinks, and broaden this paradigm to encompass almost every life experience you can imagine. Everything in life is structured in such a way that whether it's our relationship with God on a religious level, whether it's our relationships with our spouses, our friendships, our work, there's always an interplay and a balance that needs to be struck between what we bring to the table and what we need from others,
what we receive,
to support us in meeting those objectives, in meeting our goals, which raises the question, and the Rebbe subtly raises this question: why is it that we can't ever, if the thrust of this month is Amila Dodi, like doubling down on our personal divine quest, or on our personal self-development and our personal growth, then why does it have to be in the background this constant need to have that support? Why is it not enough to expect the support on the high holidays? And if we do need that support, what does that say about us and our efforts? And I guess it just opens up a broader question about who we are and what our capabilities are, what our objectives are, and when we can feel like we're really meeting our objectives, like being the best that we can be, or is it a mirage and we can't really function without this elaborate apparatus of support? And what does that support mean for us? And so it's an interesting question, and it's a very detailed question, and we could talk a lot about it, but it's certainly thought-provoking. I guess it's like, you could see it two ways, though. So today, we can't move without our cell phones, right? Everything is, all of life is in our cell phone. So the question is like this: let's rephrase this conundrum by posing the following question. Is a cell phone's performance, or is the character of a cell phone determined by the quality of the charger? In other words, would you say that a cell phone is only as good as its charger? Well, you definitely need the charger to power up the phone, but the longer it charges, does it make it a better phone? Is the charger determining the quality of the phone, or is it merely the longer you charge, allowing it to be the strongest and best it can be? And so I would like to draw a distinction between the support that we get that is about reinforcing our inability to achieve what we need without the accompanying support, or the opposite extreme is support that we get that is empowering, that doesn't make us better, it helps us be the best that we can be. And there is a fine line. Not to say that it's bad to get help. We can't do it alone.
Right.
We need help in everything. But I'm trying to break it down in a more fundamental framework. And we often catch ourselves wondering, when does the internship phase of our life end? And when do we really start being as opposed to being mentored? And so the Kabbalah has a beautiful metaphor that describes what happens during the month of Elul. What is that support? What is the nature, the characteristic of the Vidodili support that we receive during this 30-day period? And it's a kind of a folksy metaphor that says that sees God as a king, who during the year is decked out in his king robes, and he's sequestered in his palace, and he's not accessible. And so you have to be a certain kind of person, have the right connections to have an access or an audience with the king. Once a year, the king does this beautiful thing. You know, ever read The Prince and the Pauper? He puts on clothes that make him blend into the wider environment, and he goes and he mingles with the people of his constituency. And essentially, all of the terrifying trappings of the king in the way that he's in his palace, all of the obstacles between the constituents and the subjects and the king are removed. And he's just there because he's our king. He's kind of, his demeanor is just stripped of all of its grandeur. And he's just a regular guy. You know, what if God was one of us? Right? So, on one hand, it's that low profile, but king, but it's still the king. It's no less the king than when he's in his palace. But what the difference is a shift in focus that is fundamental. So, what are you looking at when you look at God in the month of Elul? And what are you looking at when you look at God? What are you seeing when you look at God on Rosh Hashana Yom Kippur? So, based on this, I would say that when you are looking for God in the month of Elul, what you're seeing is yourself. Because God has disguised himself, or kind of taken down the intensity, dialed back his power, when you look at him, he's a mirror that reflects you back. Normally, that wouldn't be the case. When you look at him and he's in his palace, he overwhelms you. So you don't exist. Really, you are, when you look at the king in the palace, you're more like a sponge than a mirror. It just all gets absorbed into you. But you're seeing the king. You're seeing God. What you see during this month is, when you look for God, is you see yourself. Right. That's the power. That's the support. And so the truth is that we have both, and it's okay. Yeah. The support that we get in life that is not about reinforcing our shortcomings, but about encouraging us to embrace the best and most holy edition of ourselves, empowerment, that's not a crutch. The objectives that we achieve by being powered up from this way of thinking are goals that we meet that we can really be proud of. Because the help that we received was not a help that diminished us. Right. It was also not a help that made us bigger than we are. It made us and encouraged us to believe in ourselves. Right. And that's really the holiness of Ani L'Dodi. The holiness of Ani L'Dodi is that the Vidodi Li, the mentorship is structured in such a way that there is trust. I trust you to do this. Right. That's why I'm not here as king. I'm just here dressed in jeans and a t-shirt watching you. I'm here. I got you. But you got this. Is different than, all right, I'm here. I take control. Right. I save the day. And so, in many ways, Elul is even holier than the months that it's supposed to be preceding and introducing. So it's not pre-game. It's not warm-up. It's real life. Right. It's who we are when we are armed with support, moral support, And what happens when we put our best effort in? That's what Elul is. That's the real stuff of life. And so it's not about, hey, let's say a person has trouble concentrating, and they take Ritalin
Sure.
or Adderall. So it's not the Ritalin that achieved the goal. It's the person that achieved the goal. So what is the Ritalin? The Ritalin is the Vidodili.
Right.
It's the support as empowerment to be the best you can be. It's not, the charger is not the cell phone. But you need the charger for the cell phone to work, to be the best cell phone it can be. Yom Tov.
Yom Tov.